few months ago, Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller announced APD and the city were close to ending the nearly 10 years long settlement agreement with the Department of Justice. That was after the feds determined there was a culture of violence and use of force within the police department.
Target 7's John Cardinelli joins us now with why some believe the DOJ should be staying around longer.
Some are saying the DOJ should not be leaving town just yet, as the exact issue that created the settlement agreement has not calmed down. That issue is deadly encounters with officers.
It was in 2014 the Department of Justice entered its settlement agreement with APD and the city of Albuquerque.
And it was meant to deal with a culture of violence and use of force issues at APD.
Damon Martinez was the U.S. attorney at the time and helped craft the nearly 300 policy changes the Department of Justice wanted APD to implement.
Most of the consent decree dealt with use of force, establishing policy for use of force, establishing training, types of training for use of force, and then implementation.
Got the gun! At the time of the agreement, APD had shot and killed 20 people in a 4-year span. The DOJ had determined some of those police shootings were questionable. But have deadly encounters become less frequent?
The rates of killings by police have actually increased in Albuquerque.
That's Samuel Sinyangwe, a data scientist and founder of Mapping Police Violence, a nonprofit organization that collects nationwide data on the issue.
There's a real issue going on with the police in Albuquerque.
Target 7 logged every deadly encounter involving APD since the consent decree was implemented. And look at this graph. Deadly encounters are trending upward. From 2013 to 2018, a 6-year span, there were 26 deadly encounters. One of those incidents, someone died after a tasing. Since 2019, there have been 33, a nearly 27% increase. There was one case in which a 15-year-old boy died in a fire that was started by police flashbangs.
Those numbers need to go down, absolutely.
Peter Simonson from the ACLU says there should always be someone monitoring APD, and it's those numbers that should keep the DOJ around. As in 2022, the department saw a record number of fatal officer-involved shootings.
I think these are the kinds of blips that are very concerning, and if we don't actually have some external mechanism to exert some corrective pressure on the department, then I could foresee a situation where one day the monitor is gone, the consent decree is over, and this department, the reforms that it's undergone all come unraveled.
But former police officer and current city council member Dan Champagne says lifting the consent decree isn't about sheer numbers. It's about fixing the policies in place.
I think those numbers are simply, you're talking about two different things. You're talking about the DOJ and fixing and reforming the police department's policy, and you're talking about the emboldeness of the criminal element of our city who pulls guns on police officers.
And those who helped craft the consent decree say the same thing.
One of the things that is causing the consent decree to come to an end is the criteria for the consent decree had to have good policy in place, good training, and good implementation. And once each of those 3 boxes are checked off, that's how it gets to compliance, and that's what's been happening.
But not every officer-involved shooting has followed the DOJ-approved policies. The police department has acknowledged it fired 2 officers in 2022.
Although the uses of force may have been out of policy, the fact that we investigated them correctly and that these officers were terminated is reason why these cases cannot be held against the Albuquerque Police Department.
In this June interview with Target 7, Police Chief Harold Medina said the number of shootings should not dictate when the DOJ settlement agreement comes to an end.
We are not going to be criticized or downgraded in the DOJ process if we address these processes correctly.
Since the settlement agreement was reached 9 years ago, the police department has paid a court-appointed monitor $11.7 million. For Target 7, I'm John Cardinelli.
APD says the DOJ addressed the increase of deadly force encounters during a hearing in January, but those transcripts have not been published. The settlement agreement prevents the DOJ from commenting on monitoring. If you have a tip for Target 7, call them at 505-884-6347 or email newstips@koat.com.